Good afternoon and welcome back to day 99. We are continuing with our look at the early monarchy, the period between Saul and Solomon. And today we are continuing with the story of David and how David is persuaded to repent of some evil that he has done. We are reading from the second book of Samuel, chapter 12, verses 1 to 15. Yahweh sent the prophet Nathan to David. He said, "There were these two men living in the same town, one rich, one poor. The rich one owned many cattle and sheep. The poor one could only afford one lamb. He took care of it, and it grew up in his house with his children. He would feed it with the food from his plate, give it a drink from his beaker, and cuddle it on his lap like it was a daughter. Now one day a visitor turned up at the rich man's house. The rich man didn't fancy killing any of his own animals to feed the visitor. Instead, he killed the poor man's lamb and served it up for his guest. David was livid with the rich man and said, "I swear by Yahweh, the one who lives, that the perpetrator deserves to die. He has done a cruel thing, and I say he has to recompense the poor man 4 times the value of the lamb." "It's you," Nathan said, "and Yahweh, the God of Israel, has a message for you. I made you Israel's king. I rescued you from Saul. I gave you his kingdom and his wives. I made you ruler of both Israel and Judah. I would gladly have given you twice as much. Why then have you disobeyed my orders? Why did you do this evil thing? You had Uriah killed in battle. You let the Amorites kill him. Then you took his wife. As a consequence, some of your descendants in every generation will die violently. Someone from your own family will bring disaster down on you. You will see your own wives taken by other men who will have sex with them in broad daylight. You did what you did in secret, but all Israel will see this by the light of day." David said, "Yes, I have sinned against Yahweh." Nathan replied, "Yahweh forgives you, and you will not die. But because you have shown such disregard for Yahweh, your child will die." And with that, Nathan went home. Of course, the story of the goings-on in the palace got out. Servants talk. The whole thing at last got to Nathan, the national prophet, who, as we see in today's reading, was able to work on David so successfully that David was moved to repent of his behavior. This is an early example of a prophet using a parable correctly. The majority of parables in the Bible are stories which require us to think about where we see ourselves in the plot. David didn't see it until he had angrily blurted out his judgment about who in the story had been wronged and who was guilty. He only saw himself in it when Nathan the prophet said, "It's you." There was an early idea in Israel that guilt could be passed down from one generation to the next. God, they thought, was likely to send disaster on your descendants for any evil you had done, and this idea even made an appearance in the 10 Commandments, if you care to look for it there. I spoke about this back on day 75. Friends of ours from Germany, born after 1946, whose parents were alive during World War II, told us about the shame they felt growing up for what had happened in the war even though personally it could not possibly have been their fault. But it did have a serious effect on their lives and the choice of career that they made. That is one way we have seen the faults of parents being visited on their children. Each of us is largely guilty of our own faults, of course, though others, including our parents, may have influenced us. No one is without fault, but God is merciful. Confession, if taken seriously, is responded to with mercy and hope for a better future. Our ancient storyteller follows up on his belief with a story about the death of Bathsheba's son, as we shall see tomorrow on day 100. So I'll see you then.